Hello, my name is Corey Templin. I am currently a student at Liberty University studying for my master's in life coaching. My career goal and overarching goal is to become a life coach for children and adolescents. This is really important to me because I have witnessed what happens when life skills are not developed at a young age, and not only by watching others, but my own experiences. I wish I had learned more life skills as a child or teenager because I believe I would have been able to avoid many pitfalls in my own life. Some of the skills that I want to teach children and adolescents is how to think for themselves, how to have confidence in themselves, how to make good decisions, and also to overcome the fear of failure, which I think is one of the most important things anybody can learn, especially something that I've had to learn in my own life the older I've gotten. I want to connect with the children in a way that creates positive change in their lives. And in order to do this, I'm going to need to be very adept at interpersonal communication. As John Stewart says, interpersonal communication happens when people talk and listen in a way that maximizes the presence of the personal. We must recognize the uniqueness of the person we're talking with. Many years ago, I was a coach for my daughter's softball team. Um, as a sports coach, you have to make a connection with those you're coaching in order to clearly communicate your expectations, your goals, the standards that you want them to learn, and the feelings that you want them to learn to the athletes. In return, the athletes need to be able to communicate their goals and their frustrations and feelings back to you, the coach. While there's always a general message that a coach is trying to teach, such as how to be a better softball player, a coach also needs to recognize the uniqueness of each player because not everyone responds the same way to a particular method. And some require different methods in order to fully learn what the coach is trying to teach them. So coaches need to be in sync with those that they are coaching. Stewart's metaphor for interpersonal communication is that it is simply like breathing with someone else. You're breathing in by listening to what that person is saying, and you're exhaling when you express yourself. As a coach, you need to subconsciously adjust to those that you are coaching by changing your own communication style and how they will best hear and respond to you. You can't, like I said, use the same style for every person that you coach. We did the Uniquely You profile, and that analysis of my personality was very interesting because my public and my private personality are two different things. My steady specialist, or S, personality is my public personality. But in private, I'm considered a competent, steady doer, or SCD. In the public world, I'm more reserved. I'm quieter. I'm not overly aggressive. I tend to be more behind the scenes than wanting to be the center of attention. The problem is that I tend to let people take advantage of me because I'm very patient and very kind. I get along very well with others and I relate very well to people. I also prefer working with smaller groups and individuals rather than the big, large groups. On the other hand, in private, I tend to be strong, sensitive, and a very serious thinker. My personality is a balanced blend of the three, which allows me to be someone that cautiously weighs the situation, but I don't like to sit back and wait for something to be done. I'm a doer. I want to get in there. I want to get it done. Waiting for something to happen is not exactly my personality. I am very passionate, and this helps motivate a lot of my decisions, but I do struggle to communicate my passions effectively by putting my emotions to words. That is one of my biggest struggles. Overall, I believe I can accomplish anything I set my mind to. I believe that God gives me the strength to achieve any of my goals, and I carry that out in everything I do. When we talk about identity and how I identify myself, I think of myself as a survivor. I'm a single mother who is now a single grandmother helping raise my grandbabies in this crazy world that we are living in today. I'm a fighter. I will not be waving my white flag anytime soon. And I refuse to let this world knock me down to where I cannot get up. The other thing I am is I am an artist, very passionate about my art, and I'm also an athlete, which brings out a competitive side in me. My identity as a person does help dictate how I communicate with others, plus the coaching aspect, which lines up with being an athlete. This is where I'm tough, is that I expect my friends and my family to also fight for what they want in the world, that they push forward no matter what they're facing. And the way I talk to them reflects that attitude. So I'm kind of hard on my friends and my family. I expect a lot out of them. The only problem is sometimes I get too passionate and I try to fix others with my advice, and that's not fair. So my passion and my stubbornness do tend to cause some barriers with healthy communication, and this can lead to the really bad case of the flat brain syndrome. I like to keep my emotions inside in my stomach, and they churn and churn. And I don't like to talk about what's going on because I falsely believe that I can work everything out all by myself. The feelings that I don't deal with, then they mix in my stomach. An argument I may have had with somebody 2 months ago mixes in with the fact that I'm trying to get done my homework and the grandkids are running around the house and I can't get anything done. So all that stuff, stress, runs together. Then what happens is my stomach is overloaded. That's what Peterson refers to. Overload squeezes up in my heart. I start shutting people out. Become defensive over any suggestions that they may make to me, because how would they even understand what I'm going through? I mean, come on. They would never be able to understand stress, right? So that tends to cause more problems where my brain starts to go flat. Once I hit that point, I lose the ability to filter my comments because my brain just actually feels like one big pile of mush. And I can't think. One of my favorite comments when I get flat brain syndrome is that I can't even form a cohesive thought. So don't ask me for anything right now. Finally, I will shut everyone out. I don't want to listen to anybody. They're just adding to the noise in my head. And often the flat brain causes your eardrums to get crushed, is what Peterson says. So now I'm not talking about what's bothering me. I'm not listening to anybody. I'm shutting everybody out because I know it's best, and I'm irritable. And that's really not a good place to be as a life coach. Another barrier that I have a problem with is I tend to form an answer before somebody finishes a sentence, which means I'm not sculpting new meanings, as Stewart talks about in his book. Instead, I'm trying to take control of the conversation. I'm assuming I can fix things, or trying to tell them how to live their lives as if I know best. And again, this isn't fair. I'm belittling their intelligence, and I'm hindering that person from growth. And I'm definitely not teaching any monumental skills when I'm doing this to people either. It's kind of like being an enabler, because I'm just providing answers that I think they should be doing. One of the tools that was discussed by Rebecca Shafir that will help me fight this bad habit of making these decisions before somebody's finished talking is mindful listening. This is where the mind and body work together to see, hear, and feel what the other person is saying. It's the opposite of multitasking because it asks you to stop and fully be present in what is being said and done at that moment. Shafir reminds us that the more you focus on process, the more positive the outcome will be. So if I choose to fully focus on the person speaking, on their nonverbal communication and nuances, as well as what they're saying, then I will become more fully absorbed in their uniqueness and be one with them at that moment. That's no other better way to understand what somebody's truly saying than to become in sync with that speaker. At that point, I can then better utilize my skills required for the therapeutic alliance that's spoke of by Frantz and Michael, where I utilize my empathy, my warmth, and my genuineness. Genuineness, it comes out at that point. And it's then that I'm taking everything to a next step and creating meaning together with the person that I'm speaking with. Sisson and Anderson refer to dialogic moments as being fleeting, typically unplanned instances where partners experience being both present and open to the other's experiences. They share a moment of complete oneness in understanding and mutuality. Building on this description is the illustration that was definitely the most impactful to me in the whole course, and that's that of the potter's wheel. I love the power of metaphors and how they can bind a powerful emotion to a concept. The metaphor of sculpting mutual meanings was so powerful because it portrayed two people involved in a dynamic expression of conversation, where one is throwing clay on the wheel and they're allowing themselves to be vulnerable to the other person and be shaped by the other person. But at the same time, the other person is also putting clay from their own person and their own personality and emotions on that wheel. And the two become involved in creating something new together, where each is shaping the conversation, and it's unique at that point. And the finished product is completely a new creation. And it reminds me of how we talk about being in Christ, we are a new creation, as in 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. All things are passed away, and behold, all things become new." Peterson is also very clear on ways to beat my flat brain syndrome from the perspective of the counselor helping the client. However, I need to turn it around, and I need to use it for my own purposes of healing myself and improving my communication skills. First of all, I need to stop repressing all of my emotions. One thing I've done for myself is I have started going to a counselor, and my long tangled rope of emotions is starting to unravel by speaking to somebody that can help me gain clarity on what's really going on in my life. My counselor helps me see things, a connection between my thoughts and my actions, and how that translates into how I act in different situations. On the flip side, I can also use the technique on myself. Peterson suggests talking to yourself to sort out your emotional energy. And it's a way of parathinking, to where now you're actually hearing your own thoughts and able to sort them out and possibly open new doors and new options in your life. In addition to understanding myself and how I can become a healthier listener, I plan on learning how to encourage healthy responses when I'm mindfully listening. Franz and Weichel comprehensively explain types of responses when to utilize them. I want to become an expert on learning the different types of responses so that I can better know how to understand where somebody's coming from in their thoughts and emotions. My final tool in fighting my barriers to communication is that I want to allow space for my clients. I have a tendency to have bias and use my beliefs to cloud what I'm hearing. And this does not mean I have to agree with everything they say, but I need to be fully present and listen to the passions of the person I'm talking to. They're not me, and I'm not them, and I have to be fully open to what they're saying. I honestly believe that this is vital to me being an effective life coach, especially for adolescents and children who always feel that they're never really heard. And only when I'm able to build meaning with them and develop a therapeutic alliance and partnership and build on trust and confidence will that relationship and conversation fully help change somebody's life. So, will I accomplish and defeat my communication demons? I don't know. I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm going to just, by the grace of God, and set my mind on things that are noble and good, and be humble before Him, allow Him to use me in other people's lives. As stated by George Bernard Shaw, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle for me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for this moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. Thank you so much.